Hi, my name is Brad Constantine, and this is a podcast of the New Testament. I'll be using as the text the King James Version along with the Joseph Smith translation. Although this is not an official recording of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, every effort's been made to be as doctrinally accurate as possible. I'll also be using quotes from general authorities of the Church, the apostles and prophets, and BYU professors and others, and every word out of the Scriptures themselves. So if you're ready for a really detailed analysis of the New Testament, you've come to the right place. Welcome. Hi there, welcome back. This is going to be for 1 Corinthians chapter 10. The heading reads, Christ is the God of Israel and the spiritual rock that guided them. Ancient Israel rebelled against Christ. Paul contrasts true and false sacraments. Moreover, brethren, I would not that you should be ignorant how that all our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea. In other words, they were baptized as they went through the Red Sea, and were all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and did all eat the same spiritual meat, and did all drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ. Paul shows the miracles in the desert to be a type of the new covenant instituted by Jesus, made efficacious through baptism and the partaking of the spiritual meat and drink of the sacrament. That was by David Seeley. Verse 5, but with many of them God was not well pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. Now these things were our examples, to the intent we should not lust after evil things as they also lusted. Neither be ye idolaters, as were some of them, as it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. And that story is in Exodus chapter 32, if you want to go back and read that. Verse 8, neither let us to commit fornication, as some of them committed and fell in one day, 320,000. So that story is in Numbers chapter 25, if you want to go read that. Neither let us tempt Christ, as some of them also tempted and were destroyed of serpents. Again, that's Numbers chapter 21. That's when they raised up the brazen serpent. Verse 10, neither murmur ye, as some of them also murmured and were destroyed by the destroyer. And that's in Numbers chapter 16. Verse 11, now all these things happened unto them for ensamples or types, and they are written for our admonition, also and for an admonition for those upon whom the ends of the world shall come. Wherefore let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall. There hath no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it. Neil Maxwell said, it is not uncommon for individuals to feel that the temptations and the trials they face are simply too much for them to manage. Happily, we can feel overwhelmed and yet not be overwhelmed. But self-pity adds to our vulnerability. Paul gave us, therefore, a much-needed promise that when he wrote this to the saints at Corinth. Certain temptations are common to those who come to this earth. It is our task to deal with those common temptations in an uncommon manner. The Lord has promised to succor us in our temptations, reminding us that he knoweth the weaknesses of man and how to succor them who are tempted. He truly knows our infirmities firsthand because he has actually borne them. Joseph Smith said, all beings who have bodies have power over those who have not. The devil has no power over us, only as we permit him. The moment we revolt at anything which comes from God, the devil takes power. Neil Maxwell again said, God has given us a guarantee that there will always be a way to escape, and or that we will not be tempted above that which we were able to bear. This truth, echoed by different prophets in different dispensation, is vital to us. The very prophetic repetition is reassuring. Things as they really are. That was by George A. Smith. George A. Smith said the following. There is a line of demarcation well defined between the Lord's territory and the devil's territory. If you remain on the Lord's side of the line, the adversary cannot come there to tempt you. You are perfectly safe as long as you stay on the Lord's side of the line. But if you cross onto the devil's side of the line, you are in his territory, and you are in his power, and he will work on you to get you just as far from that line as he possibly can, knowing that he can only succeed in destroying you by keeping you away from the place where there is safety. Verse 14, wherefore, my dearly beloved, flee from idolatry. I speak as to wise men, judge ye what I say. The cup of blessing which we bless, is it not the communion of the blood of Christ? The bread which we break, is it not the communion of the body of Christ? The cup of wine drunk during the feast of the Passover, used by Jesus to introduce the ordinance of the sacrament, as he and his apostles kept the Paschal Supper. That was by Bruce R. McConkie. Verse 17, for we being many are one bread, and one body, for we are all partakers of that one bread. Behold, Israel after the flesh are not they which eat of the sacrifices, or partakers of the altar. What say I then? That the idol is anything, or that which is offered in sacrifice to idols is anything. But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils, and not to God. And I would not that ye should have fellowship with devils. Ye cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils. Ye cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and of the table of the devils. Do we provoke the Lord to jealousy? Are we stronger than he? All things not lawful for me, for all things are not expedient. In other words, all things are not lawful for me. I didn't say that quite right. All things are not lawful, for all things edify not. Let not man seek therefore his own, but every man another's good. Whatsoever is sold in the shambles or market, that eat, asking no question for conscience sake. There would be no way for a Christian to know whether the meat offered for sale came from animals slaughtered for food or for temple sacrifices. Some of Paul's converts were anxious about keeping the letter of the law and refused to buy anything from the local markets. Paul indicates that such scrupulousness is uncalled for. One can keep the letter of the law and still violate its spirit if he provides by his example an excuse for a weaker brother to sin. Verse 26, for the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. If any of them that believe not bid you to a feast, and ye be disposed to eat, whatsoever is set before you, eat, asking no questions for conscience sake. But if any man say unto you, this is offered in sacrifice unto idols, eat not for his sake that showed it, and for conscience sake. For the earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. Conscience, I say, not thine own, but of the other. For why is my liberty judged of another man's conscience? For if I by grace be a partaker, why am I evil spoken of for that which I give thanks? Whether therefore ye eat or drink, or whatsoever ye do, do ye all to the glory of God. Give none offense, neither to the Jews, nor to the Gentiles, nor to the church of God, even as I please all men in all things, not seeking mine own profit, but of the many, that they may be saved. Anyway, that's the end of the chapter, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.